What's up, everybody? It's Luke Film Boss here, and today I'm going to be reviewing The Matrix Resurrections. I saw this movie opening night, Wednesday, the 22nd of December, and now I'm here on Christmas break, going for a hike, and I'm just gonna give you my thoughts on this very interesting movie. So, first and foremost, I want to just say I am a huge fan of the original Matrix film. That is a great piece of cinema. It was very groundbreaking. Storytelling, action, characters, all the stuff that everybody looks for in a good film. It was top-notch, top quality. And then the other two films were just pretty much a mess. Like, they weren't awful, but they were bad. Like, Reloaded had the same creative visual style and such good action sequences, but the story was just such a mess, and like, it didn't do what you wanted it to do. Like, it had so many strange like plot points and plot twists that just didn't make you satisfied. And then you got Matrix Revolutions, and boy, that film, surprisingly, I enjoyed it more than I enjoyed Reloaded, but not by much. And it was just such a worse film in quality. Like, all of the creativity and the style just got drained out of the franchise by the time we got to Revolutions. And while I liked the story a little bit more than Reloaded, that's mostly just because the story of Revolutions was just so basic and straightforward that it was kind of hard not to do it well with how the first film set up everything. And so I thought it was a satisfactory conclusion, story-wise and character-wise, but there was just like the action and everything was just so lame, especially for a Matrix film, and just in like filmmaking in general. The filmmaking in Revolutions was just bad. And so that really like dragged that film down for me. And so after watching the original Matrix trilogy, I was kind of disappointed. It started off so great, and it just couldn't follow through. And then when I heard that they were making a fourth Matrix film, it was like, yeah, it's the typical Hollywood trope. This is what they do. They bring us a sequel to the original after like 20 or like 15, 40 years. That's what they did with like Bad Boys and a whole bunch of other movie franchises. And so I'm like, sometimes they pull it off, sometimes it turns out bad, but I'm open to it. So I saw the trailers and stuff, and I thought it looked really cool, but I didn't know how they were going to continue the story. But I'm here to tell you, they pulled it off pretty well. Like, obviously, it's nowhere near as good as the first Matrix film, but I still enjoyed it. It did a good job of reestablishing what made the Matrix special in the first place. It brings the plot back to like a simplistic place where it was in like the first film and even in Revolutions, except it wasn't as large a scale in plot. It wasn't like saving the world kind of thing. It was much more character focused, and I appreciated that. Just that they can like bring this franchise back and like ground it a little bit before they go into the big world saving like storyline. And I really enjoyed that. The action here was very solid. I think for the day and age we are in today, it's definitely not anything over the top special, but it plays out very much so like the first two Matrix films in terms of its action, and that's to be expected, but I'm glad that they delivered on that. So it definitely made some improvement on the last installment, Revolutions, in the action department, as well as just the overall visual style and visual look. It was very well put together. Back to the story. This movie starts off a little bit strange, but once I kind of like got the feel of how they were structuring this story, it kind of made sense. But this is kind of a spoiler and kind of not, so if you don't want to be spoiled, then kind of skip a couple minutes ahead. But pretty much this movie starts out with Neo back in the Matrix, but he doesn't know he's in the Matrix. And I'm not going to spoil how he's back in the Matrix or how Trinity is back in the Matrix, which I thought was done very well. That's all I'm going to say about that. But it starts off with him just as a regular guy, well, actually a very famous guy in the Matrix world. And he's somewhat content being who he is in the Matrix. And at first it was like, he's this like big game designer, and pretty much he designs a game called The Matrix, which is pretty much his memories, and he put them into a video game thinking that it was just his imagination. And the Matrix is tricking him into thinking that it was just his imagination, while it was really him just visualizing his memories into a video game. And then there's like a lot of strange like marketing stuff that Warner Brothers does a lot. Like he works for Warner Brothers, and there's like a lot of stuff like that where it's like referencing Warner Brothers and video games and all this pop culture stuff. I'm like, is this gonna be like another Space Jam? But then like 10 to 15 minutes into the movie, they kind of really get back to what made the Matrix like special. Like it gets to the action, it gets to the cool details, the world building, the new characters, all the computery stuff. I was definitely very satisfied with how quickly they got us back into the fun aspects of the Matrix, which is all the bullets flying and the going through mirrors and stuff. Like such a nostalgic feeling. And I literally just watched The Matrix like maybe a little over a year ago, but like somehow it made me feel nostalgic, just like with all the flashbacks and everything, because I binged watched the original Matrix trilogy, and that was a big like moment for me. And so coming back to The Matrix was just a really fun experience, especially since this is definitely a big step up in comparison to Reloaded and Revolutions. And once again, I'm not going to spoil any of the details, because there is actually details that are to be spoiled. It's not like going to like blow you away like something like Spider-Man Far From Home, but it was definitely very well crafted. It's a creative idea, and I'm definitely glad that we got another Matrix film. And even if this is where they end the franchise, I would be satisfied, because they set it up in a way where there could be sequels, there could be more sequels, but it also could be a conclusion to the franchise. And I feel like they did that because they weren't sure how well this film would perform financially, and we still don't really know yet. And it's just well crafted once again in that way, where it could be setting up a new set of Matrix films while also being a much more satisfactory and even more heartfelt conclusion to the Matrix series than Revolutions was. Revolutions was a risky film where it pretty much kills every single main character and didn't really conclude the entire franchise. Like, it concluded it and he kind of won, but like they didn't really do what they set out to do in the first Matrix film by the end of Revolutions. And in this film, because it sets its bar low in terms of what the main goal is, it ends the film with a satisfactory conclusion of we solved what we set out to do. And I appreciated that so much. I would recommend going to see this film, but I have to also mention that it's on HBO Max, so you guys can check it out there if you want. But I would say it's definitely worth seeing in theaters. It's, once again, visually, it's very well put together, very fun to watch, very character driven if you've seen the other Matrix films. If not, it might not resonate with you as much, but it's still a very great film. So thank you all for watching. Have a Merry Christmas. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see all of you on the next video. Bye. Merry Christmas.